Hi, this is Edward Johnson of Prayer Mountain Bull Hall. I'm going to share with you today. It's kind of a serious word. God gave it to me a few years ago, and before He gave it to me, there was some previous words, and one was like a chicken. I woke up and I couldn't speak, and all I could make this chicken sound. And I said, "God, what is this?" And He told me it's a chicken wake-up call. And the people who have become kind of, he didn't say the word coward, but he was like they've become chickens, and it was time to wake them up. And then I saw a briefcase next to me. He told me that you have the next word. When you're ready, open it. So I told him, okay, I'm ready. And a couple of days later, I felt like I was strong enough, and I had a dream that night, and woke up from the dream, and the Lord told me when I woke up, okay, write this dream down right now. And so, okay, I knew this was important. I began to write it down. And then when I finished writing it down, He told me that this is what is coming upon my people. How do you say it? This is what will happen to my people. Now, two disclaimers today. It's laundry day and the kids are here, of course, and there's all the animals and the chickens next door. So I'm sorry for the noises. I edit a lot of them out. And I can filter out some of them, but I can't always do that. So if you are hearing chickens in the background and other things, just enjoy the Philippines with me and have some fun with it. This is one of the hardest words of this is like a Jeremiah. I'm laughing because I'm nervous. It's a very serious word. So try to just stay with me, and it's a hard word. So I also normally just speak from memory, and I get some facts wrong sometimes. I get numbers wrong out my mind. But this time I have to read the word. So my noisy computer is turned on. I have to read it because God just spoke to me it took me 2 days to hear it. It took me 2 days of praying to get all the information. So He spoke to me for very long sections. And also I get to turn the fan off and doors closed, windows closed. It's very hot in here. So I get a bit itchy, so I'm sorry if I keep itching and doing my hair. So I'm sweating, and so I'm sorry about that. It's the Philippines, and I'm from New Hampshire, so adjusting. So I first got the dream, and I thought I had a good take on it, and my guess was totally wrong. So let me first tell you the actual dream, and I'll try to be quick about it. This is a dream of people in their apartments and dormitories that had been provided for them when they were living, and they had heard some awful news. It was some terrifying news, and for some reason that people heard the news, they just started to run away. And there were some guys who first just left quickly, came back to kind of scout out some safe place to go, came back and began to get their things ready to leave, like they're fleeing. And I saw a long line of people who were leaving this development, and there was families. They looked kind of somber, and I knew they were leaving their houses, and they were packing, going through their things. But when they left, they actually had nothing with them. They had no suitcases, no real possessions, and they were walking by this pathway of these dim streetlights. So it was nighttime dim, but there was enough light they could kind of see. And I forgot to mention that the first time, so God reminded me in interpretation that there was these lights that were leading them, lights that were showing them the way they were going. Okay, so my vantage point changed, and what I saw was that I was inside a dormitory, many stories tall, like a university dormitory. So it's like living for school. Like there's students being trained. That's where they live, and I could see across the courtyard, and there was an apartment building, like regular families were over there, and I could see into the rooms, and they were just ransacked. The people who were leaving, and they just threw everything into a pile to sort through it quick as they could. It was just chaos in those apartments. Now they were empty now, but they were wrecked from the people who lived there, just going through their stuff. Total disarray. I also noticed strange. Not God didn't tell me this didn't tell why this was there, but we were in the shadow of a large bridge or some steel construction trusses. It's like you see in New York City sometimes, these big bridges, and there's housing on the ground, and the bridges are 5 stories above them, and so you see in the background these bridges, and there's houses that are below it. So he didn't tell me that in the vision, but it was like you knew that you were in the shadow of something bigger. So that's important to me now when I think about it. So I said, oh, man, look, everyone's gone. And there's a few people left, not many, and I knew some and I didn't know some. And we also were kind of panicking and getting ready to, everyone's leaving, so let's get ready to leave. But then we stopped and we thought, wow, there's hundreds of empty apartments, and they left everything behind. It's like it's all full of stuff that's probably very valuable. So many of us started looking around, and there was just all this nice stuff just thrown away. And I found like shoes and sweaters and different things. I found a pie that had a handle on it, and I found a computer printer, just like I have at that time, a computer printer, but it was bright pink. And I saw two people who I knew, and one of them, she's got a difficult story in this. She represents people who will fall away but come back, and it was basically my ex. And that time in this dream, when God gave me this dream, she had just quit the church, quit our family, and she left. In the dream, I'd seen her come back. She's still in a bad mood, and there was some communication. She said that she's back there, and she's like, I can't talk to you, but the phone doesn't work. I'm like, the phone works fine. I checked the phone and it worked. And she's like, well, this is a dormitory floor for boys. Only boy stuff. I want girl stuff. And said, look, downstairs is the girls' floor. Just go downstairs. So she had to go to a lower level to get things that would suit her. That's part of the vision. And I also saw this lady who I know who's like a youth leader. Does many things, but a lot of youth focus. And she was we're talking together about what's happening. And this youth leader told me, hey, did you hear the news? Currency has no more value. And so I thought, well, I guess we better look for stuff that we can barter. We can, and like, yeah, that's a good idea. So we began looking for things that we could, like, get inventory of what can we barter and trade without, there's no more currency, there's no more value in the dream. And God will explain what that means. Then I see a man come up the staircase, and this is the part of the vision that kind of is most important for most people. This man comes up the staircase, and he's totally gray. His hair's gray, his clothing's gray, his face looks ashen gray, and he's in total shock. And he's holding his hand out. I'll get my hand to the camera. He's holding his hand out, but it looks like he's like missing a finger. He's got a very small grasp, and he's holding this thing so tight. He's skinny and not very helpful, not very healthy. I mean, and he's got like an abnormally weak and abnormally small grasp. And we're trying to comfort him because he looks like he's in such shock he could do something dangerous. So we put him into one of the rooms and we sat him down and said, listen, sir, God told us this was going to happen. Many people knew this was going to happen. It's going to be okay. But he can't even listen. And then there's a guy who was like one of the janitors at the church we used to go to. He's actually a little bit mentally challenged, and he popped in the room and he said, hey, teach him how to get paper and write down what God's going to tell you. And so I'm like, oh, okay, we can try that. So I told the gray man, okay, we'll try to lead you to the communion so you can hear God's voice and God will talk to you, and that will restore, that's really helpful when God talks to you in your heart. But the guy is he can't even understand the normal things I'm talking about. To be able to lead him into communion is impossible at this point. He is so far beyond reach. To talk to him about things that are right in front of him, like here's a glass of water kind of thing, he can't handle that. He's totally in shock. So I realized that in his current state, there's no way that we can bring him into God's communion, God's fellowship. So then the man with the gray hair crawled into the closet and buried himself under the clothing, and he's whimpering, and he's thinking about, he just bought Christmas presents for his daughter, and he now says, oh no, Christmas now is worthless. The gifts are worthless. How can Christmas fail? And then I saw the box of one of the gifts he had. He picked it up, and there's some Santa Clauses drawn on it that are drawn by someone probably never saw Santa before. It was not Santa as they show in the media. It was like he's not fat, he's skinny, he's kind of not. The colors were wrong. And the whole box wrapping paper had this fake Santa on it. And then the box turned into the word church. Like church is the gift at Christmas, and Santa somehow is involved in the church Christmas gift. And the guys just keep saying, how can it fail? How can Christmas fail? How can church fail? And this was, so he doesn't understand that church and Santa and Christmas are not the same. But it was disturbing him a lot. And I woke up from the dream, and God said, write this dream down right now. This is what is going to happen to my people. Okay, now for the interpretation, this is what's going to happen to God's people. Now, I'm going to have to read, but paragraphs. I'll put on the screen the text. This is a serious word, and to give you an overview, in the Bible there was a time when God's people were given a land and given a kingdom, and they just kept abusing it and abusing it and abusing it, and God kept warning them that He was going to have some foreign power come and wipe them off the face of the earth, and finally it came to pass, and it was, as we know, the exile to Babylon. The Christians are very cavalier, saying, "All those Jews, all those unbelieving, stubborn, obstinate Jews." Well, guess what? Now it's your turn. This is what is spoken about in the Bible as the great falling away, the great apostasy, the great rebellion. And no one told me this, so this is like a new idea I'm putting together and telling you for the first time. The great falling away is the Christian version of the Jewish exile to Babylon. So if you can think of what happened to those Jews who were, first of all, savage during a war, then captured and abused, and then made to live in a foreign country for like 70 years until their sin was atoned for, because they were just not repentant. It was the only way God had to bring their hearts back to His plan. And some of them came back, but not most of them. And when they came back, it was like a dream. It's horrible what they went through. Well, this is actually the parallel in the Old Testament of what's happening now in the end times to the church. And if you are a Christian, this is now this is what you're going to be dealing with, either personally or your friends or your family. It is the great falling away. It is the exile to Babylon for the Christians. It's not a happy word. So, okay, I asked God to tell me. Now, I'm in conversation with the Lord asking Him what this means, okay? So I got to read this conversation. I said, God, what was this trouble? And God told me, it's news from a foreign land. And I said, am I hearing this right? What does it even mean? And He said, if you don't want the yoke of the Lord, the restraint and kindness of serving me, a good master, then you will fall into the snare of working towards the enemy's plans. Did I not tell you that if you will seek to gain your life, you shall lose it? This is now coming upon all my disobedient house. For I will have my people be holy as I am holy, says the Lord. Do not forget that while in the wilderness I was with Israel every day of their short, pitiful, miserable lives. They murmured and complained about me the whole time, not knowing what I was doing for their good fortunes. Now, have you been murmuring against me? And even yet condemning the ancient ones who are just as much a part of your extended human family, who will also face the same judgment? How do you think you shall escape the same chastisement and punishment of those who you condemned as disobedient and stubborn, yet you are of the same ilk? I'm not ready for this. What is the news of the big trouble? And God says this, I will cast their idols into the sea, cast them down to the ground, cast them into the flames, and they will see them no more. No more will they call this country the land of prosperity, but the land of purposelessness. Vanity, vain ideas, vain people, vain pursuits, no longer the promised land, but the land of woe. Now, that's America he's talking about, and I'm an American, but I'm living overseas. And I don't want it anymore. I can't take it anymore. I'm done. I don't want to hear this word. I took a line. I'm not dealing with this. And at that point, I've been out of America for many, many years. And I think I'm not hearing the word right. And so I said, I'm just trying to hear this word, God. And He shouted at me. I'm sorry to share this part. Okay, but this is what He said to me. And I'm just trying to listen to your word, I said. And He said, and listen you shall. I have raised you up to hear my voice and deliver my warnings to these disobedient and stiff-necked people. And go to them you shall. Now listen to me. You've not lost anything you were not supposed to give up for my sake to start with. Yet all you do all day long is moan and whine and complain about me being a hard taskmaster. He's rebuking me. When will you discern right from wrong? Is what you do right as an example to my people? Do you encourage them to weather the storms by your steadfastness to my word, or do you gripe and complain about me? I'm laughing now, but there I'm not laughing. And I just, yes, Lord. Let's have no more of your whimpering. I have good plans for my people, and the sooner you realize it, the better for all. Let's get back to the story that I'm telling you. They will hear news from a foreign land, and it will cause them to flee into the trees. the wilderness, deep into the trees, hiding from me, he said. They are leaving their habitations, the places I chose for them as a sanctuary and a safe place to rest in my care as I train them for war. What war? The war on poverty, the war on sales, the war on merchandising my truth, the war on fancy clothing that brings you no relief from your troubled souls. War on relief that is not of me and does not relieve. War on poverty of soul, war of heart, of home. Oh, my people, you've learned heresy from people who have lied to you in my name. They think holding church services is playing a game. You think I have changed, that I'm no longer the same as I was long ago, but it's you who've changed. I am forever the same. It's you who have changed. Changed your name and changed your team. Then there's Selah. Now you read in the Bible that it says Selah, right? And we don't know what it means. It's a musical term. It's not. No, it's a pause. Now what it means that he just stops talking, but I can sense him. I can kind of see him just brooding, and he's like pacing, like, what am I gonna say? And like he's not speaking, but he's got my full attention, and he's not speaking, brooding as he's pacing. Now what he said next, I can't even share it with you. I'm freaking out, and I asked an angel to come strengthen me. Now Jesus had an angel in Gethsemane. I said, God, give me an angel, just give me strength. And then whoosh, and I'm getting strength. And then I turned to the angel, and I'm like, what is going on? And the angel told me, he's really, really upset. God's not happy with what we're doing in the church. Who he loves, but he's angry. And so he finally spoke, and he said, I am pronouncing judgment upon you. You have not come to know my ways, and it's all I can do to rescue you from the pit. Do not point the finger at the Jew, you Gentile. You believe in Yeshua as you say, for you will suffer the same fate on that day. You've also fallen away. I will now purge my house as only I may. I will drive you into the arms of your lovers, you apostates, you lovers of wealth and pleasure, and you will choose your own way. You mock me, you laugh and say, I'm no longer the same. But just as they who fell away, you will laugh and you will say, oh, no way, this is our day, good times, great fun. Let's enjoy the well-earned fruit of our labors. But I shall take it all away. At that point, I've had enough. Okay? He's screaming, he's shouting, I feel his anger, and I can't handle it. So I'm kind of in two minds right now because I want to escape this. I got problems at that time here, okay? And I'm trying to escape this. I'm trying to, deal with my problems, and he knows that my mind is not focused. So he told me, okay, fine, go outside and do your gardening work. So I had some flowers that I got. I thought it was canna. Now canna is this great, beautiful flower, giant flower, very colorful. And I was at the beach, and I found some wild canna. So I thought, wow, great. So I took it out of the sand, brought it home, and I planted it. And it grew, but it's canna looking, the same leaf shapes. It gets the same like meter and a half tall, but every leaf died, in a tropical plant with dead leaves. And then the flower came out, and it was this tiny little spit of a little minuscule. That's the flower, and then that was deformed. The next one will come up, and then I'm waiting months. That one also, this tiny little, it's not canna. It looks just like canna, but the wrong flower. So after a year and a half, it's been 18 months with this flower. Now it looks like it's more stems, more shoots. It's a giant like planting, and it's all just dead leaves, but it's alive, but it looks horrible. So I don't know why right now it's so important for me to go and prune this thing. So I get out my cutters, and I realize that I can't cut the leaves off because there's just so much dead leaf. I cut the whole stem down, and as I cut a few off, I realized that, oh yeah, there's actually like new growth underneath of it. So I'm just gonna cut all the old plants off. Anyway, what a horrible. I thought it was canna, which is a beautiful flower. This is like all this work, all this ugly, and no reward. I cut it all back and I threw it in the ground. And I thought, now what should I do? All these cut stems. And then God spoke to me, burn them. And I realized, oh my gosh, this is actually part of his message. When that happened, I realized what he was talking about. It was Isaiah 5. Now I don't know. Remember that was a couple years ago how I got that connection. So. Look at Isaiah 5, okay? And the Isaiah 5, there are so many keywords of what just happened in that plant thing and what he just spoke to me. We are dealing with Isaiah 5 happening right now. And sorry, my glasses are so cheap that they're bent. They don't really stay in my face. Okay, now I found Isaiah 5, and it was shocking me with how uncanny that Isaiah 5 is what he's talking about. I went to copy it and paste it into my article, and God said, don't bother to paste Isaiah 5 into your article. No one cares. No one's going to read it. They don't care about my word enough to read it. And then all of some joker says, "Oh, that's not God speaking." And you go get your own fake God. This is the real God who's really, really emotional. The God who wrote Isaiah 5 up talking to me. So he told me to write excerpts of Isaiah 5. Okay, so I get a few excerpts here. I'll put it on the screen, and this is what it is. Okay, excerpts. I will sing for the one I love a song about his vineyard. This is the prophet saying he loves the Lord. He's going to sing about the Lord's vineyard. My loved one had a vineyard on a fertile hillside. He dug it up and cleared of the stones and planted it with the choicest vines. He built a watchtower, prophetic, for guidance, and cut out a wine press as well. Then he looked for a crop of good grapes, but it yielded only bad fruit. Very similar to what just happened to me. Now you dwellers in Jerusalem, and you men of Judah, judge between me and my vineyard. What more could have been done for my vineyard than I've done for it? When I looked for good grapes, why did it yield only bad? Now I will tell you what I'm going to do to my vineyard. I will take away its hedge. It will be destroyed. I'll break down its wall. It will be trampled. I will make it a wasteland, neither pruned nor cultivated, and briars and thorns will grow there, which is like the people will end up with this bad attitude people. I will command the clouds not to rain on it, so the prosperity blessings are going to be withheld. 7. The vineyard of the Lord Almighty is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah are the garden of his delight. Now you as a Christian, you understand that includes you. We are God's house. We are the Israel. We are the Judah. And so that you can't now say, oh, the Old Testament, that's only the Jews. No, you can't do that. The Old Testament is the model for the New Testament. And you can't claim that you believe in Psalm 91, Psalm 23, but not Isaiah 5. This applies to us right now. Don't give me this false doctrine that you don't like that word, therefore it's expired. But one word you do like from the Old Testament, the Psalms and the Prophets, that you do keep it. You can't do that. The Bible is relevant and still valid today, even though it's Old Testament. It's a symbolic prophecy for now. Don't give me this false doctrine. People have too. So keep going. 7. God looked for justice but saw bloodshed, for righteousness, and he heard cries of distress. Woe to you who add house to house and join field to field until no space is left and you live alone in the land. The Lord Almighty has declared in my hearing, surely the great houses will become desolate and the fine mansions left without occupants. Now he gave me this word. I'll do a bit of an introduction before I finish Isaiah 5. Sorry. He gave me the word about the chicken wake-up call, and he told me that it's not time to build paneled houses, Americans. For many of you will flee and not live in them. That was 10 years ago. That was 2009. Maybe around that time period. Maybe 7, 8, or 9. I'm trying to think when that was. Maybe 2009. And he gave me that word. I published it in our journal. I don't think anyone reads that. But what happened very soon afterwards, I didn't know it was going to happen that way, but we had the housing crisis in America and the whole mortgage problem, and a million people went homeless. And so God had told me that's not time to build your fancy houses. Don't do that right now. They did it, and there's many of you not live in them. Many of you are going to flee from those houses that you built. Okay, that's also in Isaiah 5. Back to verse 12. They have harps and lyres at the banquets, tambourines and flutes at and wine at their parties, but they have no regard for deeds of the Lord, no respect for the work of God's hands. Therefore my people will go into exile for lack of understanding. Their men of rank will die of hunger, and their masses will be parched with thirst. 15. So man will be brought low, and mankind humbled, and the eyes of the arrogant humbled. But the Lord Almighty will be exalted by his justice, and the holy God will show himself holy by his righteousness. Then sheep will graze in their own pasture, lambs will feed among the ruins of the rich. 24. Therefore, as tongues of fire lick up straw, and as dry grass sinks down in the flames. I was just burning it when he was showing me this. So their roots will decay, and their flowers blow away like dust, for they have rejected the law of the Lord Almighty, and spurned the word of the Holy One of Israel. Therefore the Lord's anger burns against his people. His hand is raised, and he strikes them. He strikes them down. The mountains shake, the dead bodies are like refuse in the streets. Yet for all of this, his anger is not turned away, his hand is still upraised. He lifts up a banner to the distant nations, and he whistles for those to the ends of the earth. Here they come, so swiftly and speedily. Now, you've heard prophecy from a couple of people that there's going to be war in America, that China's going to invade Seattle, that Russia's going to bomb, San Francisco. We've heard these prophecies, and we don't know if it's going to happen, if it's just We don't know. Can you pray? We don't know what's going to happen. But we've heard God say that Russia has got the nukes, and they're going to wait till and they're going to get us. And so, I'm not prophesying that. I'm saying we've heard people say that, and we've heard the visions of the invasion of Seattle from Chinese. They just put all these guys in their boats, and they just surprise, and they're on the shore, but America fights back. But it was George Washington had a vision that was similar to that. George Washington's vision. Anyway, back to this word. So I never imagined that the apostasy, the great falling away, the rebellion in New Testament was a parallel of the exile to Babylon. It's not the exile to Babylon, it's the exile of the Christians from the kingdom, if you can get that metaphor. In 2 Thessalonians 2:3, don't let him deceive you in any way. That day of the Lord, the final day, will not come unless the rebellion occurs and the man of lawlessness is revealed. Now he's the man doomed to destruction. He's probably going to be like the Antichrist is a Muslim version of the Messiah, the Mehdi. He's probably coming from, he's called the Assyrian. He's what do you call that? Maybe he's from out of Turkey, or out of the Syrian war. He's a strange person, and he's going to launch this global kind of like a jihad against everything. He's going to be like a Muslim Messiah, Muslim version of the Messiah, anti-Messiah. Hebrews 3:8-19. Do not harden your hearts as you did in the day of rebellion, during the time of testing in the wilderness, when your fathers tested and tried me for 40 years and saw what I did. That is why I was angry with that generation, and I said, their hearts are always going astray, and they have not known my ways. They have not known my ways is why God's angry. See that? They've been in his thing for a long time, but they haven't learned who he is. They haven't known his way. That's the word that he judges them for. So I declared on oath in my anger, they shall never enter my rest. See to it, brothers, that none of you has a sinful, unbelieving heart that turns away from the living God, but encourage one another daily, as long as it's called today, so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. We have come to share in Christ if we hold firmly until the end. So we have come to share in Christ if we hold firm until the end the confidence that we had at first. So if people fall away, they lose it. They lose whatever they had. As has just been said, today if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as you did in the rebellion. Who were they who heard and rebelled? Were they not those Moses led out of Egypt? Now that's symbol of being saved, right? That's symbol of going through salvation. And whom was he angry with for 40 years? Was it not those who sinned, whose bodies fell in the desert? And they went through the Red Sea, the baptism of the red. These are saved people in our common sense. And to whom did God swear that they would never enter his rest, if not those who disobeyed? So these are people who have been rescued out of the bondage, given the freedom, given the word of the Lord, the law, and they don't walk in it and they fall away. Now I've heard people say this thing, it's not true, you can't lose it. You can lose it. You can lose it, and don't give me this, you can't lose it, you can lose it. All of these salvation scriptures have a big if in it. It's a pretty big word actually, if. So just read your own Bible and don't believe these heresies, these false teachers. And so, what it says here in verse 19 in Hebrews, so we see that they were not able to enter the promised blessing, it's the kingdom or it's heaven, because of their unbelief. They were told it, they were given to, but they didn't take it. So I know that probably flies in the face of a lot of your false doctrines. I'm sorry for that. At this point, when I kind of digested, the Hebrews and the Thessalonians, I realized something about the body of Christ, that mankind has not changed. Mankind's not changed in thousands and thousands of years. That we're just the same as they were back then. We haven't changed. And that's why the scripture is still valid. What they went through in the wilderness in Moses' times, a long time ago, it applies to people now in the Christian churches, mega churches, because the human heart hasn't changed. Now technology has changed and things have changed to some degree. But what Solomon said was that there's nothing new under the sun. It's the same. And the scripture is valid because people haven't changed. And God's also not changed. So I also realized this, that my first take on that dream was just throw it out. I didn't even know what it was, my guesswork. And I realized that this God that we read Jeremiah and Ezekiel and Isaiah, that God, it's the same God we're dealing with. Jesus it's the same person. He's not changed. And so you read your Isaiah and your Ezekiel and your Jeremiah, And you realize that same God who can really make it sting, that's the one we're dealing with actually. And we can approach him through Christ. If you stay in Christ, if you stay in Christ, you're going to be safe. Okay. So that was my first day. I couldn't handle it anymore. The word sucked out my energy. I needed energy just to hear the word, and then I needed a break. So then it was the next day. I haven't even gotten any symbolism of the dream yet. So the next day, I got back to my prayer desk, got in the back of in the garden, asked Angel, can you please come to me and just ask God, send me an angel just to help me here, please, and just to give me strength so I can withstand this. And I said, okay, God, I'm ready for part 2. I'm ready for the next part of the thing. So I said, okay, God, there's people who are fleeing, and they're Christians. That's the vision. And they're fleeing from your protection, and they're fleeing from your family. Is that what this means? And he said, well, yes, but it's not as simplistic as that. They may and probably will still call themselves Christians, believers in Yeshua, Jesus, Messiah, whatever they say, but their hearts have left me, and their hearts are far from me. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. They are far from me, since their hearts are cold towards me. How can I train them? Wrestle with them. To expose and purge the dross of sin from their hearts if they won't engage me. I cannot do it on my own. I can, but I will not supplant the freedom to choose whom they shall serve. I am a holy and a righteous God, and I will not do that to anybody. Now, this is an important idea. Now, I think the Mid-Jeffords had a word about choose who you shall serve. It also this idea that what God told Mid-Jeffords is that you choose you choose your identity. You choose where you're going. You choose what you want. Are you this? Are you that? It's your choice. But that choice will determine your destination. So if you say that I'm not a boy, I'm a girl, okay, that's going to choose your identity. It's going to go in a direction. You know what? I do these secret things. I got these secret things. I'm proud. Or I'm beautiful. Or I'm angry. Whatever your choice is for who you are, you choose who you are. Your identity. You choose the person that you copy yourself after. You choose your identity. You choose. That's my family. This is my hero. My idols. The rock star. I'm gonna be like him. When you make those choices, it's gonna lead you to become like that thing you're staring at. And that is going to determine your destination. You can't go left by choosing to go right. You can't say, I'm going to become a really good businessman by being a drunkard and a fool and an idiot. You say, I'm going to be a businessman and business. You can't that and also be this the happy, nice, terrible guy all this free time. You get to choose your path. You understand me? You choosing your path affects your mind, your makeup, and how you think and how you see the world. You make your choice. Your destination is determined by that. And so I heard God even say, this is 10 years ago, he said that I can't wrestle with people to change them if they won't engage me. God said, I can, because I'm God. He's unbound, but he won't because he's righteous and he's holy, and he won't take away your freedom to choose who you will serve. You choose who you're going to serve, and that will determine your destination. That will determine where you end up. So if you choose the Lord, and you serve the Lord, and you focus on him and look at him, and you keep just following him, you're going to become like him. Enter into his good stuff. But if you don't, you're going to end up going something else, which is not going to be good for you. So I said, whoa, that's a big idea. It's making my gears work. I said, okay, God, I'm taking this all in. And I said, okay, I still want to get to the symbols in the dream. So I said, God, okay, can we go on? And God said, yes. And so I said, okay, let me get this straight. People who are fleeing, who I saw fleeing, they had things they're taking with them. And there's some guys who went early and they came back, and I don't know, is there a meaning to that? And people were packing, but then I realized that when I thought about it, that they left, but they were empty-handed. And so that confused me, because I saw them packing, but then ended up they had nothing with them. And God told me this. They were trying to take the things they valued from my kingdom when they left. Salvation, peace, etc. But they left empty-handed because I am the peace. And you can't separate me and take it away. It's all or nothing in a way. And I said, but the homes look ransacked. I mean, they were like in total disarray. And God says, yes, the people don't leave in a good frame of mind. They're in a panic, they're in fear, they're in doubt, unbelief. Unbelief in my goodness, he said. Not in the calamity that they're hearing about. They believe that. The homes reflect the unanswered questions they left behind. When they come back, as some of them will, they will have to face these scattered issues. But it will be different with newfound insight, understanding, and it won't be like they left. So I said, so the apartments and dormitories are places you provided for people in your kingdom for their safety and training, education, and preparation for their callings, right? And he said, yes, but what's more, it's not a place, but a mindset in a way. I told me that before. The kingdom is like a mindset. It's not a place you go to. So I said that the kingdom is within you, not a hotel that you check into or a building that you move into. So that kind of caught me finally, and I finally thought, God, yesterday he yelled at me for whining and complaining. And I was just realizing that I'm just not being very thankful. So I said, God, I lose sight of your goodness. I'm sorry, Lord. I lose sight of your goodness too. And the Lord said, well, you all do from time to time. That's why I'm here with you, even to the end of the age, to help keep you and help get you back on track. Okay, so we'll take a break for this right now. I'll just cut this video into two, and we'll come back to it in part two. I hope that you're staying with it. Next part is actually more serious. So, also fun too. He gets a little bit more lighthearted after the first kind of rebukes are over. So stay tuned and don't forget to get part two.